So increasing global temperatures lead to increasing extreme events too, and we're seeing those extreme events now. We're seeing more heat waves, more wildfires. We're seeing changes in the water cycle that lead to more heavy precipitation events, and in some regions, more droughts. And we know that those events have increased with warming to date, and that future warming will lead to even more increases in these extremes. We do see different extremes depending on where you live in the country. So we tend to see more droughts and wildfires out west and more heavy precipitation events in the east. So one of the big things that NASA does is we study the planet, we understand things about the atmosphere, the land, the oceans, and we make all of that data publicly available so people have access to it all around the world. And one of the things we're working on now is making that easier to use. And the goal is really to ensure that people have access to the information they need, and so they can understand what's happening where they live, how their community is changing, and they can take steps to address that. As part of that, we opened an Earth Information Center last summer that provides that information to the public so people can see what we know about the planet and can use that information. So one of the other things NASA does is we develop technologies that can help us mitigate or adapt to climate change. So we have an aeronautics team that does research on airplanes, and they've worked with the aviation industry for decades to reduce the energy use and emissions in aircraft. And they're continuing to work to think about how we can reduce the environmental impact of flying in the future. So El Nino is part of a natural cycle that affects global temperatures. So El Nino years tend to be warmer on average, La Nina years tend to be cooler. But on top of that natural cycle, we're also experiencing human-induced climate change that's leading to increases in temperature overall. So our El Nino years tend to be warmer than the previous El Nino years. Just as an example, 2022 was a La Nina year. It was the hottest La Nina year on record, and it was tied for the 5th warmest overall, even though La Nina years tend to be cooler on average. So one of the things that we know from science and understanding our planet, we also see this when we look at other planets, is that the temperature rise that we're seeing up until now is driven by greenhouse gas emissions. And what we know about future temperatures is as long as we have positive carbon dioxide emissions, we're going to continue to see temperatures rise. Yeah, so we're really excited about PACE. It's launching in just a few weeks. It's going to tell us more about looking at the color of the ocean. And that'll give us information about the species that live in the ocean and the diversity of those species. And from that, we'll be able to provide information to marine fisheries. We'll be able to look at things like harmful algal blooms and really understand what's on the surface of the ocean. In addition to looking at the surface of the ocean, PACE is also going to give us information about aerosols. These are these little particles in the atmosphere, and PACE is going to help us better understand those. So you can find more information about this and all of our missions at nasa.gov. We also have information on social media at NASA.